Naga will be here momentarily.
We'll just wait a couple more minutes. And Sin, do you have the link for the organization you want people to donate to?
Oh, right. Let me message Naga because Naga has that.
Okay. Yeah, you can just drop it in the chat, and then Lynn can access it from there.
Sorry, I forgot. What's the organization about?
So everyone's kind of deciding their own places to donate. Naga and I have decided to place donation links for the Pacific Northwest teens. Pacific Northwest Youth Liberation Front. So it's mostly teens and college students, and some of which have been kicked out of their homes for supporting BLM. So it goes to helping with that.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So I apologize. Now I'm going to be stuffing a taco in my mouth.
Oh, you're good.
That sounded bad.
Or it sounded really good.
And there's Naga. Sweet.
Hey.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the recording's already going apparently. Well, that'll be fun for anyone who watches it later. It auto starts, I forgot about that. Well, I'm going to share the screen for your class and do a blurb. And then you guys can take it away. So this is Squire Sin and Squire Naga's Flirting and Consent class. It will go until 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. If you want to continue the discussion with them after that time, please find them on the Chaos Wars Discord or find them on Facebook, and I'm sure they would love to continue the chat with you. Go ahead, Sin and Naga.
Great.
Alrighty.
Hello, everyone. We're so
Hi.
happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to put a donation link into the chat real quick, and Sin's going to start us off.
While Naga is doing that, we're going to start off with a huge trigger warning. We're going to be starting off with the heavy shit in this class, which is going to be talking about consent. And so there's a trigger warning for talking about rape as well. If at any point you need to leave for whatever reason you have, please do so. No judgment from us. Please take care of yourselves. You know, these are trying times. We want to make sure that we have grace for each other. We want to make sure that any questions that we ask, we're being respectful in our questions, and any answers that are given are respectful as well. We're all doing our emotional best right now. And this stuff is heavy. So, like, starting off with the heavy stuff, we'll finish with the fun stuff. Don't worry. But it's something that we still need to talk about for clarity and I put a note here, and then now my brain's like, what does that even mean? But it's something that needs to be addressed. So we will be talking about it. But if you need to take a moment for yourself, please do so.
And that's true for any situation that you ever find yourself in. You are always free to leave, or always to take a break. It doesn't matter if you are in a conversation with someone, or if you're in a class or a classroom setting, or just anywhere, right? You always have the power to move your body somewhere else. And it's important to remember that. So we're gonna jump into body signals, or like nonverbal cues that people easily miss that have to do with consent. Or no, yeah, no.
I was gonna say, so we skipped over something. Sorry. We're just gonna start this off. Rape can be black and white, right? It can be. It absolutely can be. But more often, rape tends. And that gray area can also stem from miscommunication and misunderstanding between people. And a lot of times that miscommunication or misunderstanding can be a misunderstanding of body signals, or even a a complete what is the word I'm using? Just like missing those body signals, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about those body signals of, that can be easily missed, and what they mean.
Yeah, absolutely. A big signal is silence. If you are trying to talk to someone and they are being completely quiet, um, if they just like look generally uncomfortable, that's also a nonverbal cue, right? Like um, immobility. So if they're frozen in their body, if they're closing in, so if their body language is protecting themselves, right? That's a sign that you need. We'll go over what that means later, but these are the signs.
Mm-hmm.
Disassociation, right? So if you see somebody with that kind of like deer in the headlights look, that can be a
Or
sign of disassociation.
the 1,000-yard stare.
The 1,000-yard stare, yeah, absolutely. Or if someone is limiting their attention or humoring, like, oh yeah, sure, and then changing to like face in a different direction than what you are in. Um, yeah, like where your shoulders are pointing, where your shoes are pointing are really good indicators. And so if those are facing away from you, that means that that person maybe doesn't want to talk to you right now, or that you're making them feel uncomfortable. Protecting the stomach is also a big sign. We protect our guts when we feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you have anything else to add to that, Sin?
So definitely as far as body language goes, it can be very subtle, but a large thing to just consider while we talk about these body signals is just kind of pay attention to where a person's attention is, right? And that's not just with their eyes and their face, and not just with their words. That's also with the rest of their body. So this class is, honestly, it's kind of hard to teach this class right now, because a lot of what we talk about is very we use a lot of like examples with each other where we will show you how it works, so it's a little bit hard to do those examples over a camera and by ourselves. So thank you for bearing with us on this. But so basically, imagine, okay, this water bottle is a person, right? If I'm very engaged if I'm very engaged in this person's conversation, I'm going to be turning towards them, right? My attention, my full body attention, whether that's upper body, lower body, will be on them. And sometimes that upper body, lower body distinction, sometimes people will sit with their legs facing one direction and they will turn their body. And that's kind of one of those like, okay, they're giving some attention, but not necessarily all of their attention. But if I'm sitting here and I've got like my legs sitting up here and I'm just leaning forward and really just kind of interested in what you're saying, right? And the opposite side of that is the easy one to miss that we're trying to talk about right now, is if someone, say, is over here and I'm talking to someone over on this side, but you are also, this water bottle is also trying to engage with me. If I just kind of go, yeah, cool, and continue to keep my body language away, or I continue to keep my body language closed somehow, like hugging your legs to you, which can also be a comfort, like just some people, how some people sit. But hugging their legs to them, covering their stomachs, right? Arms crossed, sitting like this, right? It's a non-inviting position. And so even something like silence, just all of that is very much about just kind of paying attention to where their body is and whether their body is closed off and looking for something like closed off or open, right? Like if I'm sitting here talking to people and I'm waving my arms and I'm really open, that's going to obviously show a different emotion as opposed to if I'm sitting here talking like this. So yeah, that's kind of some of the different body signals.
Yeah, so where some of these come from is we used to think that adrenaline really caused two reactions in the body. One is flight, and the other one is fight. Flight being that you run away, fight being that you put up your dukes, right? Verbally or physically. Uh, Whereas now, the more that we discover in science and psychology, there are actually more ways that adrenaline affects our system than just that. One of them is freeze, which is what we're talking about with that immobilization. It's what you might see a baby creature do that's new to the world when they have a predator nearby. Their whole body just straight and they can't move anymore, and that's one way. And then the other one is called fawn, which is that interaction where like you're fawning over somebody, but in this case it means more like you're placating them and their actions or desires towards you. Like it, if you looked at it from an outside perspective, it is very clear that this person doesn't want attention, but being in the middle of it sometimes can look like they're like, oh yeah, great, thanks, and then like moving on, right? Because it's dangerous for that person to tell you no. That's what their body, that's what their system, that's what their history is telling them. So there's a lot of different ways that our bodies and our minds respond when we feel like we are potentially in danger. Um, and this is some of them. Um, so what do you do as a participating party if you're talking to someone and you see these signals crop up, right? So if you see any of these at the beginning of the interaction, that's a sign that this person doesn't want to talk to you right now. So that's a moment to stop, disengage, just let that person be. You can go and try to talk to them again at a later time, maybe try a different approach and see what's up. But if you start to, if a person consistently has these interactions with you, it just means that they don't want to talk to you. And that could be for any variety of reasons. Um, if this happens to you mid interaction where things seem to be going along great, and then you notice either a sudden or an over time like descent into just like holding themselves closely, you just kind of pick up on something might not be quite right. It's amazing to just pause, right? And then check in like, hey, are you doing okay? Like, is something going on right now? Do I need to back off? Like any of those are great uh, ways to show that you care for this person. And give them a moment, because it could be they see something happening way over there that's making them feel uncomfortable and they're reacting to that. So it just might be that that conversation needs to move to a different place, or it might be they're feeling a certain kind of way and they need to stop this conversation but might not know how to say it, or might not even know that they need to say it. Those check-ins can be absolutely vital.
Those check-ins are absolutely vital because it shows that you respect that person, right? And like a lot of people in interactions, they're looking for respect. They're looking for any sign of that respect, whether it's, not interrupting them. But those check-ins, especially when people are feeling uncomfortable and potentially feel like they can't tell you no right now, or being too and saying, hey, I need you to leave me be for a little bit. Those check-ins are absolutely crucial because they then have that moment to say, actually, I'm not feeling great right now and need some time, or whatever it is that they need to say or do in that time. So what to do if you're a bystander and you see these signs? So if I'm over here and I see someone talking to Naga and I see Naga exhibiting some of these signs, right? Yes. The easiest thing to do is a discreet check-in. So it can be something, maybe if you don't know this person, you can either find someone that does know them, or even just be like, hey, I have some important event stuff to talk to you about, right? So it's just a quick, discreet check-in, like, hey, can I borrow you? Hey, can I talk to you for a moment? Hey, I've been looking for you. Can I chat with you over here really quick? Just kind of insert yourself for a moment to be able to pull them aside and say, hey, I've noticed these things. Are you doing okay? Do you need to get out of here? It's something to so it's just a very simple check-in on someone else, like, hey, I noticed that you are exhibiting some of these signs. Hey, like, do you need an out right now? Are you feeling trapped? Like that kind of situation. And if they take a moment to say, no, I'm actually great, like I'm just, I'm in pain because have been standing all day, and that's why I'm looking like this. You say, okay, cool, wanted to make sure, and you like let them do their thing, right? But if they're saying, oh my god, yes, like I didn't know how to get out of this conversation, that is your moment to then be like, hey, we have something to go take care of, and you take that person away. You get to be that person's out if it's something that you see. If you feel like you need to, insert yourself into a conversation. I have definitely had moments where I've seen two people talking and it will look like one person maybe kind of isn't super interested, and I'll literally just plop myself sometimes in the middle of them, and just kind of be like, "Hey, what's going on here? Like, hey, what are you guys talking about? I kind of heard you talking a little bit, and I'm really interested in what's going on. Whatever it is that you need to just kind of toss yourself in there." And then that always allows that, like, it allows extra interaction. It allows that person to feel like there's somebody else there. They're not the only one. They're not a target, right? And it helps because now if that person feels like they need to escape, they can totally escape because you can now engage in that conversation. Or you can call that person out. Because that is something that absolutely needs to happen more often, is we need to call out disrespectful motherfuckers. And it is one of those things where if you see someone being disrespectful, especially if you see someone disregarding someone saying no or saying, "Hey, can you leave me be? Hey, I don't want to talk about this." If you see that kind of thing, it is absolutely necessary to have people that can come into a conversation and say, "Hey, that's not cool. Hey, we need to respect their no," right? Because the most important part of consent is respecting their answer. You need to go in having no expectations of what they're going to say, and you need to respect rejection. Um, you don't know why someone is saying no. Pardon. How do you want to go? I just messed up the
Yeah. So
thing. Okay, cool. Thank you.
yeah. And like it can also look like you put yourself in the middle of that conversation to say something like, "Look, I've been watching from the outside of this and I heard this person say no, and I know you heard them say no. Why are you continuing to do this?" Right? And one of the best things you can do is be loud. It's something that we are specifically trained not to do. It's something that women especially are societally trained not to do, is to be loud. So if you find yourself in a situation, no matter what your gender is, where someone is being like oppressive towards you, especially if you're using your words and you're saying things like, "No, please don't. I don't want this. Please go away." And you see like, and someone else is not doing it, be really loud about it. No one ever wants to get called out, especially not
Yeah.
publicly. So if you just make it like, just be loud. "I said no," and you'll have heads whip in your direction so fast, and then you have a scene. But remember, you are not the one causing that scene. The person who is disrespecting you is causing that scene.
Yep.
It's not on you. Please, 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 it's not on you. This is you making sure that you are safe, and you're absolutely allowed to make sure that you are safe at any point.
Yep.
So, respecting answers, super important. And as Sin says, we're all adults. Let's fucking act like it.
Yeah, because you don't know why someone is saying no, right? Someone, maybe they're not feeling well physically, maybe they're not feeling well emotionally, maybe there's something just happened to them, and the moment you come to talk to them, they just kind of are like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling this moment right now." Maybe this is the first time that they feel comfortable in exercising their right to say no, because we get a lot of that in Belagarth, where people finally feel comfortable enough that they can say no, and they do. So it's not about you, it's about them. And it is something where we need to make sure that we are not going in like, it's really hard when you're super hopeful, like you really like someone, right? Like, "Oh my god, I've been crushing on Naga for so long, I really hope that she says yes to me, oh my gosh." And you, you go up and talk to her and she's just kind of like, "Hey, yeah, no, okay." And the immediate response, right, is rejection. It's hurtful. It sucks because you've built up this expectation, or this hope that this is what's going to happen, right? "Oh, we're gonna go snuggle in the tent. We're going to go hold hands and walk by the beach." And not being able to do that. This is so weird having to do this over camera. I'm so excited for the flirting part right now. And it's one of those things where it's really easy to get upset in that rejection moment of, not getting the things that we hoped we would get, right? Or the things that we've been wanting for however long. But we need to do that. Like, we need to put ourselves aside and our wants and our desires aside, because ultimately it's about them and not us. Like Naga already said, but I'm gonna say it again because it needs to be said. We're all adults. Let's fucking act like it.
Yeah. Consent also includes those small actions, right? So like you need to ask before you touch another person's body, no matter how cool, wonderful, or curious you are about it. This includes beard touching. Like, just don't go up to somebody and like just touch their beard, right? This is something that happens to people
Nope.
who have beards literally all the time. People go up and they're like, "Oh my God, your beard!" And the da 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 da. No, no, no. It goes, "Oh my God, your beard. Can I touch it, please?" Right? And then that person can decide like if you can or not, and then you respect that, right? Same thing goes for hugs, for close touching, for touching someone as you pass by. Like, really try not to touch other people. Yes, and then also like on the subject of hair, right? Like big hair, right? Any hair, whether no matter what it looks like, but especially if that person is a person of color, right? Um, don't treat people like animals. It's not difficult, right? Like, you have to ask
It's not
before
a
you can
petting
touch their
zoo.
hair. It's not a petting zoo. They're not a goat. Like, obviously, right? They're very clearly
Yeah.
human. Please
It's
respect their humanity by not touching. Now, all of this is to say, right, like if you already have an established relationship, friendship with someone, whatever, and they're like super into every time you see them, you hug them, or you touch their beard, or they touch yours, or whatever, that is a totally different case than what we're talking about, because you already have their consent to do those things, right? You have a predisposed agreement that that's what you're about. But if you, especially if you don't know the person, right, always ask. And then they're going to be really excited that you asked, because maybe they were on the fence about letting you touch before, and now you're like asking for consent and you're showing that respect. And then they're like, "Oh, well, yeah, I want to be friends with people who are respectful towards me. Yeah, you can touch this." Like, yeah, perfect.
Also, in that same vein of people that you've established boundaries with, everyone. So my boundaries with Naga is not everyone's boundary with Naga. To use Naga as a simple example. So if I walk up to someone and I have an established situation where I can touch their hair, I can touch their beard, I can hug them super deep, I can whatever that boundary of touch, a physical touch is, or even proximity is, that does not apply to everyone. So things like, I'm sure you all have seen that moment where someone shows up, like, okay, just showed up to Gelf camp, right? And I start giving a couple of people that I know well really big, huge hugs, maybe lifting hugs, which I don't always let people lift me. And there's someone that you don't give a hug to, and they say, "Oh, where's my hug?" Right? This goes back to that whole thing about having no expectations. You are not, no one is beholden to give you their physical touch or their attention. And making sure that we understand that just because someone doesn't feel comfortable with you doesn't mean that they are, that I should say, just because someone doesn't feel like giving you a hug doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that if they hate you, maybe it does, but more often than not, they probably don't hate you. They just either don't like hugs or just don't feel like giving you one. And also consider that comments like that make people feel like you expect them to do things. It goes back down to that expectation thing. And so we need to make sure that we are always calling that stuff out, and also just being very aware that we're not expecting someone else's established boundaries to also be our own boundaries.
It's also important to note that asking a person repeatedly if you can do the same thing is not actually getting their consent, it's coercing them. So you can't be like, "Can I have a hug?" And they say no, and you're like, "Cool." And then like a couple minutes later, "Hey, can I have a hug?" Right? "Why won't you kiss me? Why can't I touch your hair? Why won't you let me do this? Please let me do this." And just like over and over and over again, that is not getting consent. That is pushing yourself onto someone else, and
Yep.
that is coercion. And coerced consent is not consent. Um, you need an ecstatic yes. And if someone is giving in to you or you have worn them down, that is not okay, and that is not consent.
Mm-hmm. Consent can always be withdrawn. And that is something that, like, it doesn't matter if you are just walking up to a person. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of sex. If at any point that person starts exhibiting some kind of signs where maybe they're feeling less than comfortable, that is a moment to check in, right? A lot of people, like, I personally love using the light system, where it's red, yellow, green. Green is obviously like, keep going, everything's good. Yellow is, hey, maybe wait, stop for a second, small check-in. Red is absolutely no, stop, right? And everyone's a little bit different on how they prefer it, but consent can always be withdrawn, and sometimes people feel like they are not allowed to withdraw their consent in the middle of an act. Whether that act is holding your hand, whether that act is giving you a hug, whether that act is having sex of any variety, right? Even kissing. Some people maybe will be making out and suddenly they want to stop, but they don't feel like they can, right? And that is something that we need to be very aware of, both of ourselves and our own actions, and of other people that we are potentially, engaging in these actions with. It can always be withdrawn, and enthusiastic consent is key. So if you, as Naga was saying, right, coercion it's coerced consent, which is not consent. If you have a question about whether it's enthusiastic, it's not. It's as simple as that. If you have to stop and say, I don't know if this person likes this, stop. Like, if you have to think that, that is a moment to stop and check in with them, right? We've talked about checking in. Hey, is this still okay? Hey, if you need to stop, we can stop. Making sure that they feel comfortable in taking that out and offering them that out is absolutely necessary, because people often don't feel like they're allowed to take that out. Naga loves the tea analogy. Naga and I both love the tea analogy, so
I just put the link up to the tea analogy for y'all to go watch after the class. It's in the chat.
It's super great. Please watch it. It's also kind of amusing. But basically they use offering someone a drink of tea as a way to explain how consent works and the different ways that consent works. So it's absolutely one that we suggest and highly recommend. So, but yeah, as we were saying, enthusiastic consent is key. And I already said that. So, so ways to say no and remove yourself when you're uncomfortable. This one can be really simple, or it can get really fun in a kind of weird roundabout way. So the power of no, thank you, right? So no, thank you. It's stating no, and it's polite, right? So it's one of those things where you can say no, thank you, and it becomes really easy to point out that you have now said no, thank you, and you've done so nicely. Sorry, we're showing a Google Doc and Naga's typing, and I'm like, what is going on?
What is going on? Yeah, no, keep going.
You're good. It's a learning process. So the power of no thank you it's surprisingly strong, right? And a lot of people don't feel like they can say no. But adding that thank you is kind of one of those things that, while we maybe don't necessarily want to say thank you after telling them no, it's one of those ways that you can at least work your way up to a more short, like a more I don't want to say aggressive, but a more firm no. There we go. And it's something that people feel a little bit more comfortable with sometimes, because especially as women, we are so women, non-binary people, etc., are very conditioned to not say no, or at least not be what is the word?
We're conditioned to be agreeable.
Yes, thank you. We are conditioned to be agreeable, and so being able to say no, thank you, it sounds polite and proper, and so it can be a little bit easier to kind of step your nose up from there. I like to use a rule of 3 whenever I can. And my rule of three starts, so basically it is, I give a person 3 times of saying no before I get loud, like extremely loud, and make a big stink about it. So number one, first no, it's a very nice, polite, like, no thank you, or no, I'd really like that, not like that right now, thank you very much. If they do it again after that first time, my second one is a little bit more firm. It's no, thank you though. Or it's very much a little bit more firm, like, that is not okay with me. Once I get to number 3, that is where I start saying, I have said no twice and you are still continuing doing this. So it's one of those ways that I can easily track. I have already said no. I've already stated I do not want this or am uncomfortable with this. And now, because you have continued to do this, I can take this moment to say, hey, look, you have already heard me say no, both politely and firmly. I'm now going to call your ass out. And then if they continue to do it, that is where I can, get loud, cause even more of a scene, because especially like I get louder with each one if I have to. But especially at that point, that is where I'm going to ECs or whatever the situation is that needs to be handled in that way. Sometimes we don't feel. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna just go on to the bio reasons for escaping.
Yeah. So sometimes we don't feel comfortable, right? Need to escape.
Sometimes you need something that's more socially concordant, right? So we're saying no can sometimes feel like social dissonance, right? Because you're going against things that you've been told to do. And so, but no one wants to be around you when you are about to have a biological explosion. I need to go throw up, right? If you are in someone's tent and they are trying to put the moves on you and you just need to get the fuck out of there, like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. No one wants to be around that. Like, and then you can run to the bathroom, and bathrooms are kind of this strange safe haven. It's really unlikely that someone's going to follow you into the bathroom after you tell them that you need to go throw up, especially if you're not the same gender. And then you can go in the bathroom and then you can just wait for someone else to get there so that you can safely move about, right? You have safety in numbers. Same thing, I really need to pee. I think I'm going to piss myself, right? Like anything like that. No one wants to be around your gross bodily fluids. And they're a great way to remove yourself from a situation if you don't feel like you have a better option. That you don't have a better option can be for a variety of reasons, but it's something that I have sometimes felt more comfortable doing than just standing up for myself in the moment, because it is incredibly difficult to stand up for yourself in the moment. No matter how much you prep yourself for it beforehand, sometimes it just doesn't happen, and we will feel a lot of guilt and shame and whatever about that afterwards. I encourage everyone to not feel those ways, because if you get out, and that's what's important. You can also be like, oh, hey, I see my friend over there, and then run over to your friend. I hear my mother calling, which is really funny if you're at an event and your mom's definitely not there. And then you just book it, right? Like, get yourself out of the situation. Another way to say no that I've just recently encountered because I was rewatching the movie from The Devil Wears Prada is, no, this wasn't up for discussion. Is so lovely. The 2 no's, right? Like, it's a really great way to set a good boundary.
I have had awkward moments, like even if you make it funny, I have had awkward moments where I literally crouched into crab position and Zoidberged away. I've done it a few different times now, and it gets you out of the situation. It confuses the crap out of people because they're like, wait, what the hell is going on? Sometimes it weirds them out just enough that they're like, I'm definitely not going to go back and talk to that person, which is kind of what you want, right? So, like, even if you're being awkward or silly about it in a way that is comfortable to you, like, what matters is that you got away. Like, those moments where I was able to do that, what mattered is that I got myself out of that uncomfortable situation. That person did not pursue, or those people, it's happened a few different times, those people did not pursue. And like it also was one of those things where people around were like, hey, yeah, that that just happened. So
and I believe now we get to move on to the fun stuff.
yeah, we're here at the flirting section. Can we take a quick moment just to see or I guess, yeah, just everyone just take a quick moment to check in with yourselves, make sure you're all doing good. If you need to leave, please feel free once again. Or if not, we are here at the flirting section.
And this is all recorded, so if you do have to take a break for any reason, you can come back to this later and fill yourself in on the pieces that you've missed, which is an amazing thing that we don't normally get in real life. Yay, recording.
Woo!
So going into flirting, we are giving you our trade secrets.
It's so true.
We have been honing this skill for years, and now we're just telling you how to do it.
Because it's increasing our flirting talent pool, right? Like, everyone's always like, oh, I don't want to tell my secrets. But no, we absolutely do. Because if y'all get better, like, if those who feel like they need to get better at flirting get better at flirting, then we also get to get better at flirting, and that increases the amount of people that we can flirt well with, right? So it's a win-win situation for all of us.
Yeah, and it's so much easier than you think. I know it's really, it can be easy to be like, oh, like I'm not good at this, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not skilled enough.
I'm so awkward.
I'm so awkward. I am so awkward.
We are both so awkward.
You don't even know. And we can both flirt. And so it's something that is accessible to basically everyone. And flirting also goes hand in hand with getting consent. And like the best flirting is also getting consent at the same time in really sexy ways. You can make it sexy with a smile. You can say things like, may I do the thing? Right?
Awkward eyebrow waggles, right?
I want you. Is that okay? Right? But or even better, like, I want you. Is that okay? Right? Like, it's all about how your voice works. It's all about your body language, right?
Yes.
Sin, do you want to give some more examples?
Yeah, sure. So that's kind of what we're like. Kind of the thing is that getting consent, it's so much easier, and it can be fun, right? Like, we're not saying that you have to walk up to someone and say, I want to have sex with you. Do you consent to that? I mean, you can. Maybe that becomes a great joke, right? Like, if it works for you, like, hey, you did it. Good job. But you can make it fun and silly as you flirt with people and get consent. You can, it's like, ooh, I'd love to do insert thing to you. Would you like that? Like, I'd love to kiss you. Would you like that? Or, if you're kind of getting physical enthusiastic consent, even having those little verbal moments of like, is this okay? Or do you like that? Like, that is definitely one of those ones that's just, it's choice. It is like Emperor's New Groove choice. If someone's doing something and they suddenly whisper, do you like that? Like, that is absolutely perfect. Hello. It's basically just finding a way to check in with them, but also, making sure that you're not asking super flatly, and not asking the same thing every time, right? Like, I'm not going to ask, may I kiss you? May I kiss you again? May I kiss you again? How about now? Can I kiss you again? Right? Like, we don't want to ask too much, but we also want to make it fun. That is kind of the fun of flirting, is coming up with different ways on how you can both make it sexy or flirty, and also get done what you need to done, which is get done what you need to do, which is getting consent. The other thing is you can make it meaningful. You can give compliments, and that is such a great way, especially with so many awkward Bellegrim that don't always, like, a lot of Bellegrim always feel really awkward compliments because a lot of times they're not used to getting them, or they deal with self-esteem issues, or a whole slew of things. And getting compliments is definitely an easy way to just kind of be like, I'm now flustered. I'm gonna go hide in embarrassment and shame, but also I love it because that made me feel nice. Thank you, right? Like, but make it meaningful. Don't just be like, oh, you're hot. I mean, women, especially women, get it a lot of that, and it's not as meaningful, right? So make when you walk into this camp, if you're at an event, or when you walk into this room, the entire room lights up. Your smile is so bright that I can't, and so infectious that I can't help but smile every time I see you smiling. Your eyes are so striking. I can't stop looking at them. Right? Make it meaningful. And especially make it something that's a choice, right? Like, especially if you don't know how to compliment a body part, or a non compliment in a non you're hot kind of way, make it something that's a choice. Naga, if you will.
Yeah, so like, wow, your garb is on point, right? Or you're an amazing crafter. Look at the detail that you're able to get in your work, right? The color that you're wearing really suits you, or the color that you're wearing really brings out your eyes. I love how your garb is fitting to you. And then there's also like, you fight good, which is from Shang from Mulan. Because that is some great awkward flirting right there. You fight good.
That is yeah, that is some choice. Yeah. And also the great part with that one is that because it's already established flirting from Mulan, from the movie that a lot of people know, like, people are going to understand that you are more likely flirting if you use a line that someone else was using to awkwardly flirt. Like, if I were to be like, hey, you fight good, right?
Yeah. Did you freeze? Are you here? You froze. Okay. Until you are unfrozen. Going into like some more like nonverbal cues for consent flirting. Oh, here you are. Good.
Yeah. Oh, did I cut out?
You did. Hello,
no.
You're back. Oh no, your voice is in and out.
Oh
Technical
no, really?
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Let me see. Are we all good now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good, sweet. Yeah, so nonverbal cues for consent. This shit is nuanced as fuck. It's difficult, right? Like, this is not something that you can just be like, oh, hey, I heard this one time and now I know everything on it. It is nuanced as fuck because people are different. And everyone shows it in a little bit of a different way. And also some people's default, it can also be like, one person's default can be another person's flirting. So that makes it even more difficult because sometimes it's kind of like Naga and I, like, wait, are they flirting with me or are they just always like this? We're always like this, and also sometimes flirting with people. Body language can express consent and dissent, right? Naga, if you would not mind.
Yeah, so for any sort of sex or similar acts, you have to rely on verbal consent. You have to have asked at some point. You have to make sure that that consent is being held the entire time that you're interacting with this person, because consent can be withdrawn at any time, right? And then for acts of like affection and foreplay, you can use a mix of nonverbal and verbal consent. It's always better to have verbal. Sometimes verbal or nonverbal, like that body language that we're talking about, runs a little bit more smoothly. So it's about what feels right in the moment, as long as you are seeing that person being excited to be around you and giving consent for what you're doing. But yes, for anything that involves actual sex or even sex similar acts, yes, make sure that you have that verbal consent. And then also being aware of so the first person to initiate contact, whether that is initiating that first small touch, just initiating in general, should be the person who has more to lose. So in man-woman interactions, like in very straight heteronormative interactions, it's almost always going to be the woman with very few exceptions. She is going to have more to lose. It gets a little bit hairier in the queer scene because there aren't as easily seen straight cut lines. But like for myself, being a woman, if I'm interacting with someone who's non-binary, they probably have more to lose. Same thing is if you are peerage and it's, you know, a squire, apprentice, journey person versus a knight, war master, master, etc. Right? Don't be if you are in a place of power, do not sexually advance on anybody who is under you in that place of power. It's inappropriate. Just don't. Stop right now. But if I am flirting with a knight, right, somebody who has an elevated rank over me, but not my knight, obviously, I am the one who has the most to lose in initiating that contact, right? So it's important to let me be the one to initiate that contact. And there's just a lot of hidden dynamics of power in our society. And I really encourage all of you to take a really deep look into what those hidden dynamics can be.
Realm leaders.
Realm leadership. Yes, absolutely. But yeah, like anytime you're gonna end up in a position of power over someone, even as just like general leadership in the community, in some situations will have more power than the people that I'm flirting with. So I'm always going to be letting them lead and initiate, because it's inappropriate for me to do that initiation. And there's lots of like really fun nonverbal ways to communicate that things are okay in a flirty way.
So this one's a little bit harder to show on over camera because we usually use each other a lot to physically show it. But nonverbal cues can be things like hand offering, right? So if I'm sitting here, maybe Naga and I are sitting next to each other on a table, which is usually where we are at Chaos. We're sitting next to each other on a table, and I put my hand out, right? Like I can put my hand on my own leg, or I can put my hand out between us, and I just kind of put my hand there and leave it there. And that is kind of a moment of offering of, hey, I'm open to holding your hand if you also want to hold my hand, without saying it. And that gives Naga the option, or whomever the option, to then take my hand. And yay, look, now we're holding hands. Swoon. It's things like arm touches and smaller touches. If I'm fully engaged with Naga in a conversation, and I go to tell them something, and I maybe briefly touch their knee, or I briefly touch their arm, right? I briefly touch their shoulder, maybe, or especially if I'm standing next to them, maybe I put my hand on their upper back. I usually try to avoid lower back until I know a person more, but put their hand somewhere on upper back kind of thing. Small little touches like that. Leaning in general. If you have ever, yes, thank you, Naga. If you have ever had a super engaging conversation with people and you see them just completely leaning into each other in that conversation, that obviously shows attentiveness, interest, and it's very much a nonverbal cue that if nothing else, this person has interest in everything that you're saying right now. They're completely invested in you, what you're saying, and their time with you right now. And then even shoulder, we mentioned this before, shoulder and shoe direction. So if I'm talking with Naga, but I've got my shoulders turned away from her, I may not be as invested as if I turn my shoulders towards her, right? And then also shoes. If someone maybe has shoes are where your feet are pointing, it's actually a weirdly good directional as to how invested someone is in what you're saying. Because if they have both their feet pointing towards you in some variation, right? This obviously applies less to when you're sitting in weird positions. But if they have both their feet pointing towards you, they're more like that. That means that more or less their whole body is pointed towards you. If they have maybe one foot towards you and 1 foot away, maybe they're kind of turning back and forth between you and something else. But if they've got both, thank you, Len, if they've got both feet pointing away, then they're probably more invested in whatever they're pointing towards. Yeah, so now we can get into a little bit, we'll try to keep this as brief as we can. The chaser or the chased, which one are you? So knowing which one you are or which one you prefer really helps open avenues of, as we like to call, flirt tactics. So as the chased, this tends to be my personal preference. You're going to have open body language, right? Like you don't want to be closed off because that shows that you are not open to conversation or contact probably. You want to have awareness of group positioning and desired attention. So maybe if the person that I really want to give me attention is somewhere over there, I'm not going to completely turn my back to them. I'm going to kind of like, especially if I'm in a circle, I'm going to slightly open myself up if they're in a different circle. Leading them into the chase. One of my favorite lines, what are you going to do about it? Or my favorite brat line, make me. That absolutely that absolutely opens avenues of so many. Making sure the other one knows you're initiating. Being the chased person doesn't mean that you can't initiate touches and flirting. You don't have to be the wallflower sitting over here just being like, I hope senpai notices me. You can absolutely maybe go and take a moment to be in their group and then maybe come away. Or like I said, initiating that openness into your circle, maybe eye contact kind of thing. And the touches become a route to show them that you want more. So like those arm touches we talked about, right? And now we talk back to Naga to talk about chasing people.
Yeah, so I am primarily someone who chases people. It's what I'm most comfortable with, although, we're all just in flux with everything. So I have kind of a system that I engage in with somebody that I'm flirting with, is I first get into close proximity with them, right? And I try to do it as naturally as possible, right? I see a group, there's a conversation, I try to squeeze into that group while standing next to the person, and I just exist in that space next to them. And then I'm there for the conversation appropriate amount of time, and then I run away. And I'm like, did they like that? Was it cool? Was it good for them for me to be near them? And if it was, then I do like the next thing, and I just kind of continue to kind of like one up what I'm doing. So then it moves to eye contact, prolonged eye contact. Eye contact over like 3 seconds is staring at someone, but it can be very sexy if you do it right. Otherwise, oh man, the breakdown happens real fast. Touches, compliments, right? And I'm just like kind of like dipping into their space, their awareness, doing something flirty, sexy, and then like getting the fuck out. And just constantly like, did that go well? Did they seem to like it? If they didn't like it, I might try the same thing twice. If they don't like it twice, I'm not going to try that again for a really long time, if ever. But if they, right, like you never know why people don't like something until you either ask them or you can just stop doing it. And those are both totally good ways to be about that. But yeah, and then I really appreciate when somebody who I'm chasing gives me signs to let me know that I'm doing it well, right? It's super, super helpful. And for those of you who are chasers, remember, like, it can be a numbers game. Not everyone is going to like you. Not everyone that you like is going to like you back. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. You will find people who do like you. You will find people that you like who like you back. You just gotta keep going, right? Like rejection, if you think rejection is about you, then you need to be looking into yourself and what you're doing. And if you think that people are just not into what you're doing, that's okay too. But really just self-reflection. I cannot even tell you how important it is to be self-reflective, especially when you're the one doing the chasing. Yep.
I hate to cut you guys off.
You're good.
Thank you.
We did it. We did it. Yes.
Yay! It is now 3:00, and we are going to move directly into the all guild meeting. So I'm going to stop this recording.
Later, I was gonna say, if I may say real quick, if anyone has